Mark Webber. There is nobody in the Formula One grid more who deserves to win a race than Mark Webber. He's definitely one of the best Grand Prix drivers in the world. And tonight he comes off 5 consecutive finishes in the points. He's the driver who is best of the rest. Behind the 2 Ferrari, 2 McLaren and 2 BMW drivers lies Mark Webber. He's annihilated his teammate this year at Red Bull Renault. And he's also an extremely good friend and a very good guy. Mark, welcome. Hi, buddy. Thanks for joining us, Mark. But let's just get straight down to today. And so we can just paint a picture of the weekend, first of all, where we are and where we're going. Difficult day, not much running in the morning, bit of rain. Nice spin this afternoon.
So, hello everyone. There's always an enthusiastic crowd when I come and have a little chat at the Grand Prix tour, so I hope you're enjoying the first part of your trip, and I spoke to a lot of your countrymen and colleagues in Monte Carlo a few weeks ago. So today, wet track first thing. Obviously we didn't do too much running at all because you get an allocation of intermediates and wet tyres, so we think there is a chance that there might be some further rain to come for the weekend, so we decided to not really do too much running in that first session and save the allotment of tyres that we have for the rest of the weekend in case we have some more rain. So it got serious, I suppose, in the second session. And what's unique with this track is that we run a very low downforce package, which means that the cars are set up for more top speed than sort of stability in the corners, which we've just come off the back of Monte Carlo, which is absolutely totally the opposite. We have 18, 19 corners or something at Monaco, all of them very tightly packed together, and we need maximum downforce from the car, so the car feels, we've got a lot of grip, and the drivers get a lot of confidence from that. So then we come to Montreal, we have different brake material as well, because we have a lot of big stops, which means the brakes don't feel that good for us. We have the car that's sliding around for us, so lots of things that the drivers have to get used to in quite a short period of time, really. So it's a different challenge for us. And today didn't go too bad, actually. We were pretty happy with, the car didn't feel fantastic. We've got a bit of work to do for it, as the boys are doing back at the track now, but everyone was having similar issues, and the drivers were very fussy. We're always looking to try and improve and make the car more comfortable for us, because it's a long race. It's a 70-lap Grand Prix, or give or take a few laps, I think. So it's a long race, and it's very easy to clip a wall, as you've seen here. Montreal is very famous for safety cars, and so we'll see. It's not a bad first day, and we're looking forward to tomorrow. Obviously, tomorrow's all about qualifying and doing those perfect laps, and then you've got to get your head in for Saturday.
But Mark, we need to join the dots here, because 1 minute on the TV screen we saw you backwards in the kiddie litter, and we all thought it's going to be quite difficult to get out of there. And then the camera went away, and the next thing you come blasting down the straight again. How did you get from the kiddie litter back onto the track?
Well, I ran out of talent on the way into the corner, and didn't really catch the car quick enough. And that kiddie litter there, I know that it finishes. There's about a metre and a half before the tyre barrier starts, where it's just grass. So I thought I would continue to sort of roll backwards and use the momentum of the car. Obviously I had the clutching, because if you have the clutch out, obviously the car's going to dig straight into the gravel. So I was trying to roll subtly across the top of the gravel and get the rear tyres on the grass. And then when I was on the grass, I thought, okay, I've got to get as much momentum as I can, because the rest of the car is in the gravel, and that stuff is very hard to get out of. So I just thought I'd have to really be quite aggressive with the clutch and get as much momentum as I could on the grass before I hit the gravel. And it was really tight for me to get stuck, but in the end I just you don't need much throttle in those things to get out. So I managed to I think I sprayed a few fans and a few marshals with some stones, but I got out, and that's all I was worried about.
I knew there was more to it than met the eye. Very good. Mark, you're talking about the difference in brake material. We were talking about that earlier, actually. Can you just go a little bit deeper on that? How does it actually feel different for you when you are running different brake materials?
Well, at some tracks, I suppose you could think about some cheese in terms of some of the tracks we use. We have brake material that gives us more feeling, a softer sort of cheese, if you like, more bite on the brakes, but they wear a lot more at places where we can get away with having those sort of what we call brake cycle or duty cycle on the brakes, we can get away with those sort of brakes which are a bit nicer to use because they give us a bit more confidence and more bite, if you like. And when we come to Montreal, we've got a lot of stops where we come from 300 kilometres an hour down to about 80 k's an hour. So that happening 3 times, 4 times a lap over a course of a 70-lap Grand Prix, you can't use the brakes that we use at most of the other circuits because the brakes will just run out of brakes. So then the brake companies put together a different brake package, different brake pads, different brake discs, and that disc package and also the cooling package, we need to feed the brakes. The brakes are never happy if they don't get enough air on them. They need to get cooled in the right way. Also the caliper, you've got to think about the caliper as well that holds the pads. All of that needs to be cool around here because there's so much heat going through the whole car. So with all of that, hopefully you'll get to the end. And also the problem that we have is you would have seen a lot of guys have failures here quite close to the end of the race, is that the wear rate on the disc is normal to a point, but then when the disc gets too thin, the acceleration of that wear just goes straight through the roof. So it's not linear at all. It gets to a point where the boys are under control, that they can see on the telemetry everything's fine. And then if it gets a little bit too thin, it starts to get really hard to manage, and that's where we can run into trouble. And so normally you have to manage the brakes in the race here, but we're quite confident we can smash the brakes for the whole race on Sunday. We can really give them everything, and we've got enough cooling and enough brakes to not have to worry about them.
Mark, you've had a massive amount of bad luck, if that's the right word, in your career. I don't know whether we believe in luck or not, but things haven't gone right. But this year, you've got this nice momentum going now. I guess every time you finish a race, that helps for the next race, and the momentum snowballs, right? It's a sort of an exponential thing.
It is. This year we've touched wood. We've had a car that's been reliable. And at Williams and the first year Red Bull last year, we had. I was unfortunately in a situation where the cars were quite unreliable, and that's very hard for your motivation. It's very hard for the team's motivation, and it's very hard to get momentum, as Peter says. So when we go testing, we can develop the car better in testing because we know the car can do more mileage in testing. And then even today, we're out driving around and generally the car is reliable enough that we can get the information that we need. So I think it's the first time ever where our racing team is in England is in a place called Milton Keynes, and before that it was Jaguar, which you guys probably remember, and also Jackie Stewart had a team as well. But it's the first time ever that when the Formula One team has been set up from there, now it's Red Bull obviously, that factory has scored 5 points finishes on the bounce. So that's really encouraging for the factory as well. They're doing long hours, and they've all got wives at home that say, well, the bloody hell have you been, and doing those extra hours, and it makes a difference now because then, everyone feels, they get bonuses. If we get points, the mechanics and, the guy on the broom, everyone through the whole factory gets bonuses, so they really feel part of the whole thing. So that's really rewarding when we do finish races, that when we're getting as many points as we are at the moment, which is not as many as the Raikkonens and these guys, but for us, we're really punching above our weight, which is good.
You go to your factory and you see the guys there, as you say, working long hours, fantastic facilities now, getting better all the time. It's extraordinary to leave the factory and think, and that's a team that's basically still running best of the rest. The differences between Red Bull and Ferrari, in reality, are very small, but it's a huge gap.
Absolutely, and a lot of it is due to, we've had a pretty stable regulation in the last 3 or 4 years, and I suppose it's like losing weight or something like that. If someone had a 6-month start on you, it's going to be very hard to catch up to them. If you're both working at the same rate and trying to lose the weight, or in any other type of form of business or whatever it is, then it's very hard to get that back. And when those teams have the sort of head start a little bit because they've got the continuity, they've had that amazing wind continuity, they've had that amazing wind tunnel and CFD facilities for aerodynamics and all those type of things. On average, last year we were about 1.4 to 1.5% away from the leading pack, and this year we are 1% away per lap, which is not much, but as Peter said, it's a lot in our game. So for us to close the gap to those guys, which we have done from last year to this year, we've actually closed the gap to the faster teams. But when you're 1% behind per lap, that obviously means you're generally 45, 50 seconds behind at the end of a race. So the factories, we have 650 people working at Red Bull, you know, and they're all working to make my car faster. And Toyota have a couple of hundred more, as do Ferrari and things like that. So it's a big push, and what's really rewarding for us is that we have teams obviously with you know, Toyota or Honda and, you know, big manufacturers, and we're an energy drink company and we're beating them, so it's great.
Not only is Mark Webber beating them, but he's scored more points than the 3 other Renault engine drivers put together. That's impressive, Mark. Let's talk a little bit about the question we had over there from the lady. You know Fernando Alonso quite well. You're a Renault driver, training driver with the boys for quite a long time. Were you surprised at the way he handled last year? And what do you think his mindset is now back in the Renault team?
Fernando Alonso's a really difficult character. I mean, he's very hard for him to understand how sometimes he's thinking. You know, he had a brilliant car last year. Obviously, a teammate that got under his skin a little bit early in Lewis, and also he wasn't that happy with how McLaren operated as a team in his eyes. You know, so then he decided to, you know, take that out on the team and take that out on sort of, I suppose, you know, eventually leaving the team. You know, obviously had a solid contract with no real exits, if you like, but Fernando still left and decided to go somewhere else where he's going to struggle to win a race this year. He might get a podium or two, compared to having a car where he definitely probably would have been on the podium in every race. And that was just sheer, I suppose, absolute, ego and arrogance for him to, I'm not happy here, you know, I am stubborn and I want to go somewhere else where I am happy, even though it's not, I'm not going to get the performance out of it. So, and even now, again, he's sort of looking, where else can I go? But I mean, what we think in the industry is that there's not many teams that actually want Fernando, because it's very hard. He's probably the best driver in the world, if not one of the best drivers in the world. But to try and handle him is difficult, and you're not sure if he's going to come in one day and blow everyone away with a machine gun, because that's, you know, he's he just is very tough on the staff. And when
I'm glad you answered that question and not me, Mark.
I don't mean that, but he's tough on the staff, obviously, so it's very hard to motivate your staff when he can come out with unpredictable things.
It's in your hands, Mark, as long as you want to go.
One of the things we love about Formula One are the rivalries, the partnering of good versus evil. Assuming you're good, which you are, who do you consider your personal rival? Who's the one that when you pass, you go, yes?
That's a good question as well.
Oh, obviously this year I think, you know, Fernando is someone that I've...
That's because he's the #1 Renault driver, and you're in the Red Bull Renault, and you've known him for a long time, and he's won a lot of races, and you haven't. That's a good, understandable.
Our Renault guys, I mean, they give us the same engines pretty much. I mean, there's not much between the engines. Renault give us, and I'll tell you if they don't, but they do a really good job for us as a sister team, and they're really great guys. And the roar that goes up in our garage from our Renault guys when we beat Fernando is amazing. So, and then they've got to get quiet when they go back to the works team. So, just last one, yeah.
How much does your exercise program vary from race to race?
The question was just about how I prepare myself for each race physically, and how it's sort of, what was the second part? Sorry, mate, brain fade. The hardest race to deal with is, early on in the season, jet lag's quite a big thing for us, because obviously we've got to travel from Europe to Australia and to Malaysia, so getting over the jet lag's quite a big thing. So most of our conditioning and the real big base of our training is done over the winter, which is our November, December, January, obviously in getting ready for the season, and February. And in conjunction with that, we've got testing as well. So the car fitness comes along with with the testing we do pre-season. The most important thing for us, obviously, is our necks get very, very tired over the winter. So if you have had 3 or 4 months out of the car, to go back again, your neck is very, very weak compared to. At the moment, my neck is very, very strong because I've done a lot of races and I'm in season. So your neck is conditioned for that. So generally, race to race, we don't prepare that differently, with the exception maybe of Malaysia. There's a few real hot races that we might go a little bit early just to try and acclimatise a little bit to the heat. But in terms of actually the physiological side of it, in terms of maybe a little bit for the left side of the neck for Turkey and Brazil, because they're anti-clockwise tracks and they load up the other side of the neck a lot, because most of the other races are clockwise, so we have the forces on the other side of the body. And when we go to Brazil and Turkey, we have the forces on the left-hand side of the body, so we do a little bit for that. And the hardest race to compete in is the Malaysian Grand Prix. Malaysia, I don't know if many of you have been to Kuala Lumpur, but if you've been there and come out of the airport, it's like walking into an oven. So, and we race there for 100 minutes, obviously in all our whole kit and caboodle, and it gets very hot. So, and this year, Adrian, this amazing designer that Peter's talking about, was very, very kind, and he gave me 400 millilitres to drink in the race. So, if you measure 400, next time you're in 95 Fahrenheit or 40 degrees, and you're on the treadmill, just take 400 ml with you and see how you go for 100 minutes.
Mark, a wonderful painting there. That's going to be auctioned tomorrow for the Mechanics Trust, and we'd be honoured now if you could add your signature. I think to the top right is probably the nicest place. Mark Webber, ladies and gentlemen, best of luck this weekend. A fabulous racing driver and a great guy as well. Thank you very much indeed, Mark.
Thank you.